All right, let's welcome them back for part two. Just a reminder, tomorrow morning, 10 a.m., we will be having a prayer meeting in terms of the fight against trafficking, 10 a.m. tomorrow, so join us. And then tomorrow at 1 p.m., here again, there will be a Q&A seminar with Bazzel and Tina, and then, of course, they'll be doing both services on Sunday. Guys, coming up.
Is it?
Yep.
Great. Can you hear me? Yeah. Good. No, I've got this. Thank you. Man, you guys look familiar. So it was interesting. I was talking to some people, and someone said to me, you know, I really want to get into this fight, but I have a lot going on. I have a lot of things I have to do. I have a lot of things I'm trying to accomplish, whatever it may be. And as leaders, a lot of times, we hold on to a lot of things in our life. And it gives us a good excuse for not doing something. But let me let you know, you don't hold on to anything. It's holding on to you. Okay? So all your possessions, all the things that you give you excuses for not saving children or whatever it is you do, whether you support your church or whatever, those things hold on to you. You don't hold on to them. You think you're in control, but you're not. They're in control of you. So, how many new people do we have? Is there anybody here that came? Just got here. Okay. So, for those that already heard us a little bit earlier, for these people, let me explain. We're the Association for the Recovery of Children. It's a 501c3 nonprofit organization of former intelligence, military, and law enforcement officers that have been dedicated since 1993 to the rescue of missing, exploited, and sex-trafficked American children. Once all local, state, and federal law enforcement efforts have been exhausted or they choose not to get involved, we get involved. So we've been doing this, as I said, since 1993, and so we're one of the oldest child rescue organizations in the United States. So we're here to talk to you about what's going on in Kansas City, Missouri, and around the United States altogether. What's that?
Ask for those next slide.
Oh, next slide, please. It's a good thing she's here. Oh, good. Okay. I already talked about that, but you want to talk to these cases?
This is you.
This is me. Doesn't look like me.
You can ask for the
Oh, I already said this.
Okay.
Sometimes I'm not that coordinated. I'm not really technically, that's not what I do. I just rescue kids. Next slide, please. No, so far, many of you know this. We've been blessed to have a 100% success rate, and in every child we've gone after, we've brought home. There is one exception to that, and I didn't mention it at the last session. That does not include the children that were found dead if we get there and don't get them in time. We're seeing a lot more of that in the United States and around the world. Next slide, please. So, we're made up, as I said, of former intelligence, military, and law enforcement officers. This is just a snapshot of our core team. And, of course, Tina is on the right. She's our head of human trafficking director. Tina actually came on board with us about 8-9 years ago. She was one of the only women in the field that we encountered that was actually going downrange, to actually go into the gang territory, MS-13 or whatever it is, to actually physically go in and get children out of those places. In those days, she was doing this thing called swooping, and she made her angels work very hard. She did not use tradecraft. She wasn't well trained, but she had heart, and she had desire, and she had God's calling. And so when God said go, she just went. And so we finally said, look, if you're going to be part of our team, you're going to have to do it a little bit different. Every now and then, she doesn't listen, still. And she still does the swooping thing to go get kids. But she's great, and after we saw that and what she was doing, we asked her to come on board ARC, and this was before we were married. And she's done an exceptional job. She is probably the only female I know in the United States of America that knows as much about this issue as most of us, to be honest with you. So she can tell her own story. She grew up during the revolution in Venezuela, so guns, scare tactics, all that stuff, that's nothing to her. So next slide, please. Okay. And of course, I'm doing this one too. And all I wanted to do was going to tell you guys a joke.
I can talk about this too.
Yeah, we have the Fight Child Sex Trafficking Comprehensive Equipping course. This is not an awareness course, and this is what we're offering. I think we have it in October here.
Yeah, it's October 16 to 22nd.
Yeah. So it's 6 days, intense hours, 8, 9, sometimes 10 hours a day, to teach you how to actually go run operations and go rescue kids off the street. It's an equipping course. We teach you from A to Z, everything that we knew to include tradecraft. It does require you to sign an NDA, a non-disclosure agreement, because we don't want the bad guys knowing what we know and how we're able to successfully run these operations. So we take it very serious. There were a number of people actually from your church that actually went to the last course we had last year. Extraordinary class, and so they're well trained up. And a lot of those people are actually out there rescuing kids as well. So this is a course we encourage you to come to get trained up. It is probably the only course we know of in America. We didn't set out to be in the training arena. That's not what we're running operations day and night. But we had to force multiply, and people kept coming to us going, what do I do? How do I get involved? I want to do this, please. Teach us to do what you're doing. And eventually God called us to at least offer. We only can offer 6 of these a year, is because it's in between other operations. But you've got it coming here. We would highly encourage you to take it if you're going to get into this field saving children. Next slide, please. Tina,
All right.
please.
I wanted to just talk a little bit more about the course. So,
Yeah, please.
because you may be wondering, how does this apply to me, or why would I go to the course? What am I going to gain? So the first, it's like Baz said, it's the A to Z. So the first day, we spend talking about the criminal enterprise, which you can see part of this, the business model of sex trafficking. Because child sex abuse has been around probably since the dawn of humanity. So has prostitution, right? So this is nothing new. So what is new that makes this such a big deal? It's the commercialization of these things. The fact that commercialization means money is being exchanged for raping children, exploiting children, and money is being exchanged for prostitution of men and women. So the first day we talk about the criminal enterprise, including who's doing the trafficking, what are the organized crimes, the cartel, how do you spot them, the gangs, even down to the entrepreneur, call it the entrepreneur pimp, who may be just a guy in the neighborhood who's recruiting girls and being able to exploit them this way, or boys. So the second day, we talk about the good guys, which is who's really in the field making a difference, saving kids, doing good prevention, doing intervention. And what are the tactics that are working, the strategies that are working to reduce sex trafficking? How are we able to access and find kids? We really go into detail, like how are we able to find kids that law enforcement can't find? What tools are we using? And we teach you these things. This is why there's an NDA. So you don't go out and tell people and then that trick doesn't work anymore. But we teach you how it is that we find kids that no one else can find. Days 3 and 4, we talk about victimology. So that day 3 is all about what makes victims vulnerable. What makes them attract the recruiter? What is it about them that starts the breakdown? What are the tactics that the recruiter does? All the way to how the recruiter, how the trafficker puts them in mental bondage of fear and threats and gets them not to run away. We're going to talk about a little of that tonight. The next day on victimology is trauma, unwinding trauma. So these traffickers are creating trauma bonds. They're deliberately traumatizing the victim to make them submissive, to make them cooperate with all the bad treatment and not run away. So if you're the rescuer or the person doing intervention, how do you unwind that trauma to get that victim to actually leave? We go through the whole day of how to talk to a victim. How do you get a victim to open up to you and disclose what's going on when they won't trust anybody? How do you get them to trust you? In 5 minutes, right? You just have 5 minutes with this person. How do you get this person to trust you enough to reveal what's going on so that you can help them? And then we go through, at the end of the day, mentoring. So hopefully most victims can get to a program that helps them with rehabilitation and recovery, but some can't. So what do you do as a church if you have survivors in your community, in your church community, who aren't in a program getting professional help? How can you still mentor these survivors back into a healthy life? How can you surround them with the care they need to get them forward in their life, even if they don't go to professionals? And then do you want to talk about day 5 and 6 of the course?
Sure. Day 5 and 6, we actually teach you how to run an operation. How many former military here? Well, thanks for your service. Remember a 5-paragraph order? Remember that thing? Yeah. So we teach that. We teach 5-paragraph order. We teach you surveillance. We teach you CovCom, covert communications. We teach you everything you need in order to be invisible with the bad guys and actually get in and navigate all the fault lines of trafficking so that you can get your hands on the kid and get out. We do not teach you to capture perpetrators. That's not what we do. We teach you to look for those windows of opportunity where you can actually find that kid and with as little trauma as possible actually extract them and get them to the safe house and back to the aftercare facility. We do not, even though many of us we are authorized to be armed, we don't carry weapons. We're not kicking doors in. We're not making a big scene. We're not doing any of that stuff. We try to be silent, swift, and deadly, so to speak. You know, we just try to be very, very careful with what we do. You got to remember that the children are already traumatized. And it's one of the things, and I'll share this really, it's one of the things that we teach in there, and those that went to the course, you already know this. When we approach a kid, just to give you an example, we're not towering over a little kid. When we get to a little kid, we're generally down on one knee. We're at their level, and we go, and we're very soft-spoken. And we say, we're here to take you home to your mom or your dad or whatever it may be. You want to go with us? God's blessed us that every single kid has just come to us. They just come. They just know. We're not towering over them. We're not laced out with all of our gear. It's too scary. So all of these things you have to know when you approach all these children. You have to understand what they've been through. You have to understand their world. You have to understand where they came from. And you have to also understand that sometimes you don't take them back home because that's where it happened in the first place. So it's sad, but that's the reality of where we live at this day and age. So we teach those two things the last 2 days, and then you actually run an operation on paper. We put you in teams together, and you actually are given a scenario, and after about 6 hours of working on it, you present that to the class to see if you're actually successful enough to bring a kid home and everything. So sometimes people are very good. Sometimes they fail miserably. Sometimes they don't get along together. Sometimes they get along great. It's really funny. It's a really interesting learning experience. But that's what we're preparing you for that, because once you get out of there and you get into the real world, you have no room for error. You have no room for error because the child's life depends on you being precise, surgical, and to the point, and timely in every single thing you do. It only takes you losing one child, and you won't be able to live with yourself the rest of your life because you chose not to learn it and learn it well. The way you do anything is the way you will do everything in life. Never forget that. The way you do anything is generally the way you will do everything in life. So do it right the first time, practice it all the time, you'll save children. Please.
Okay, so moving forward with this slide. So sex trafficking is not about the sex. It is for the buyer, but it's really about the money. That's what's creating this epidemic of trafficking. That's why more kids are being recruited now than ever before. That's why these systems are in place that create compliant victims. There is mental programming. We'll talk about this in the course. All the mental programming that the traffickers are employing. Some of these are super sophisticated. Some of these are military trained brainwashing tactics that go way back to the Cold War, World War I, World War II. That they're known ways to program a person to do what you tell them to do. And so those are being implemented on youth, on children, to get them to cooperate. So why? So that the traffickers can make money off them. The real issue that we need to focus on, and we harp on this in the course, demand is the problem. What is demand? Demand are the buyers. So we mentioned in the course, we mentioned this morning, so there's about $32 billion a year. It's actually way more than that. That's from 2017. But there's $32 billion going into sex trafficking that's being paid by Americans buying illegal sex, okay? So we are the world's largest buyer of illegal sex. The United States, not Thailand, not anywhere else. So our problem is that 3 to 4% of our population in America is paying 75% of all the money going into the sex trade in the world. So 3% of our population is 75% of that 32 billion that's buying illegal sex. So who are those buyers? We've got to find them, right? We have to teach people that buying humans is not okay. And I'm talking those repeat buyers, right? Are they poor? No, they're not. Because everyone's like, oh no, the buyers are these guys that are going around in the clubs, No, they're business owners, senators, they're people, heads of state, people, executives. They have tons of money because who has that $32 billion? Who has 75% of that $32 billion? These aren't poor people. These are elite buyers. We've got to look at that. I'm not saying that the average person isn't a problem too, but when you look at how to stop the sex trade, you have to stop the money. You've got to get to these people. So they're the ones that are willing to pay money for sex, violence, torture, pornography, and young victims are a premium. I mentioned this last hour. The younger the victim, the higher the price tag on that individual being sold. The distributors are the traffickers and the pimps. When we talk to them, they literally see themselves as businessmen who are, look, hey, all I'm doing is meeting a demand that the culture has. Culture is telling us that people want to buy sex, they want to buy illegal sex, they want to buy kid sex, they want to buy really bad pornography. So all we're doing is meeting the demand by creating a supply for them. So the traffickers and the pimps capture, recruit victims to sell for these acts of sex, torture, or pornography. The supply is the victims that meet the demand of the sex buyer. The money they earn for their suffering is taken by the traffickers and pimps. So this is the horrible injustice. As long as you have somebody in the world willing to pay money for sex with a minor, you will have someone willing to acquire a minor to get that money, okay? You will have someone, and it might be a parent. So 32% of our cases are parents selling their own kids. Parents selling their own kids for money. And they have a lot of excuses for why they need the money. But one girl that I worked with for 8 months had been sold to pay for a cancer surgery to save her mother's life. Okay, so she told me, no, I'm okay with being a sex slave. She was literally a sex slave that was chained by her neck to the floor. I'm okay with that because what I did saved my mother's life, and now my mother's alive for her other 5 children, even though I'm sold. So how do you tell that girl that that isn't right? Right? She goes, I saved my mother. I'm fine with this. She doesn't even want help, right? Because she sees her service as sacrificing herself to save someone else. So there are a lot worse cases of parents selling their kids because they owe a gambling debt to the gang or because they need drugs. So there are a lot of families that are drug addicted, and the way to get free drugs is to give their child or their teenage daughter or somebody for sex in order to acquire the drugs. And guess what? They can acquire the drugs every day that way because they just sell their own kid to get it. Very tragic. Can I have the next slide, please? So these are the levels of commercial sex trade, and I know this may be hard for people to grasp, but and I mentioned this the last hour, but it's very important. Our culture thinks that this number one category is what sex trafficking is, that it's nonviolent, non-coercive commercial sex. It's basically willing participants selling their bodies for sex, and it's their job, and they're fine with it, and nothing bad's happening to them, and everyone's okay. So let's legalize prostitution. What's the problem? That's where society believes the issue is, and they're justifying it. Let's not legalize prostitution, because once we do that, we are legally commodifying human bodies. We can't do that, okay? It will also completely stop law enforcement's ability to get into brothels to look for kids. They won't be able to stop and question anybody in prostitution because it's legal, right? Everybody's okay with it. It's fine. They're going to turn a blind eye, and we're going to see the level of trafficking increase tremendously. But below that is where the real issues are. So number 2 is coercive. That means force. Forced coercive acts, violence, crimes against children, production of child pornography. We do talk about in the course, pornography is becoming much more extreme, much more violent, because the buyers of pornography want something they haven't seen yet. They want something more extreme than the last one they watched. And it's driving the market so that 1 in 5 pornographic images and videos shows extreme torture, abuse, traumatization of a victim. It didn't used to be that bad, but now it is. So society is going to that level. Number 3 is torture and sex for sale. Going to my last point, it just gets darker and darker. 4, very young children and infants under 1 year old. I'm not going to get graphic, but when we talk about the price tag being higher for the younger, this is about Satan. This is about Satan twisting the minds of people. His goal is to destroy God's creation. His goal is to destroy the most innocent thing that he can get and destroy it. The most innocent creation of God are babies, are Christian babies. Satan is after kids in the church. So we know that we have recruiters from the gangs that are getting into youth groups, and they're in churches, and they don't even look like gang members. Some of them are women, some of them are girls. They're recruiting kids out of churches because they can get more money because of the horror of a church girl being put into prostitution. A really super good kid, an A student in elementary school being put into prostitution. See, it's more gratifying. It's more gratifying for Satan. So the goal is domination. The goal is destroying innocence, and that's where this goes. Number 5 is cult ritual sex abuse and what we call disposable purchase, which is victims that are purchased to be killed, to be sacrificed. So you may think, oh, well, actually, of our cases right now, more than half are satanic ritual abuse. So it's highly on the rise. I mentioned that last hour too, but it's very important you know, this isn't in satanic churches. It's not in the witch covens that are out there in the open. Those we expect them to be doing sacrifices. These cult ritual sex abuse cases that we're working are inside Christian churches. Again, Satan wants to destroy God's creation. He wants to destroy God's most precious. So all of the cases we're working right now are satanic cults that are inside Christian churches. What a better place to hide. What a better place to get a constant supply of good little children from a Christian church. So we need to really open our eyes. That's been a huge eye-opener and a big heartbreaker for us to know that the houses of God, the family of God, is being used to host these very devious cells of evil. Number 6, children sold for blood and or body parts. So blood harvesting and body part harvesting, I think the cartels are a lot into this. And if you do your research, well, we can give you research on that too. They find that the child as a whole is not worth as much as the sum of the child's organs being sold on the market for medicinal purposes or whatever it is, hospitals. So we actually have a friend who flies, she's a commercial pilot, who told us that she's getting shipments and shipments and shipments of refrigerated organs that are being put on her plane, and asking how can she examine that paperwork, because she's highly suspicious about the number of organ containers that are being put on her planes in refrigerated storage. So it's an example, like, this is not a joke. This is not something that's a figment of someone's imagination. This is something that we're able to witness. There's also an interview with a cartel member who came to Christ in prison, told his story, but he said the thing he feels most guilty about was organ harvesting children. It's absolutely not make-believe. It's absolutely real. Can I have the next slide, please? All right, so this is the best, the best example of how traffickers and recruiters target kids and who they target. Has everyone studied Maslow's hierarchy of needs? You probably had this in high school, in your psychology class. Okay, no one's admitting it because you probably slept through it. Really a key thing to understand about human nature and what drives our sense of need. So at the bottom level, the basic level, the big purple level, is physiological needs. We all need food, water, warmth, and rest. That's the basic need of every human being. It's the basic need of every child. If you have a kid in a neighborhood where they don't have enough food, they don't have enough water, they don't have enough warmth, they're living in a car because their parent is homeless, and they don't have rest, okay? They can't sleep, they're being worked at night. They are gonna absolutely do what it takes to get those things if someone offers it. So we have kids being recruited because somebody says, some guy says, hey, I'm gonna buy you a burger. You know what? I'll buy you a burger every day if you meet me here at the park. It's that easy. You know what? How would you like some ice cream? Kids never had ice cream before. Basic need, food, water, warmth, and rest. You know what? I mean, we had a girl that was literally trafficked this way. This guy bought her hamburgers because she was a runaway. And then he said, you know what? My wife and I have a spare room. Would you come live with us? And that was all fine for like 2 days until he started raping her. And the wife was compliant, and then they started selling her. It was a recruitment tactic based on the fact that she needed food, water, warmth, and rest. But let's say that all the kids in our church have food, water, warmth, and rest, all right? The next thing they're gonna need is safety. They need to feel a sense of security and a sense of safety. So what if mom and dad aren't paying attention? They can go out and party with their friends whenever they want. They have risky behavior and no one does anything to stop it. They mouth off to people. They're showing that they have an appetite for dangerous, destructive behavior, and no one stops them and nobody seems to care. They don't feel safe or protected. They don't feel like anyone cares about their safety. What if it's a family where the mom's boyfriend is molesting the daughter and the mom isn't intervening, and the mom is saying, no, be quiet because we need his money. We need his money, so just be quiet and put up with it. So that kid is not getting security and safety. Someone else is going to offer it to them, and it'll be a counterfeit. So if you have kids that are bullied at school, everyone know that example? This is a really major recruiting tactic that's happening in schools all over the place. So I don't have any young kids to pick on here, but let's say we have Alex. She's 14, and then we have Alexa. Alex and Alexa. I know it's confusing, but so Alex is a little bit awkward. She's behind in her studies. She has no one to help her with homework. She dresses funny because her parents don't have a lot of money. So Alex is a little bit of an oddball, and she gets picked on every day by the other kids for not being pretty, for having dirty clothes, for not knowing the math problems that everybody else knows. And Alexa comes up and says, you know what, girl? I was just like you when I was in 6th grade. I was just like that. I totally know how you're feeling, and I'm not going to let these kids bother you one more time. The next time the kids are talking sass to Alex, Alexa comes in, pushes them away, and says, she's with me, she's mine. You guys back off. Don't anyone mess with Alex, I'm gonna mess with you. And everyone's scared of Alexa. How does Alex feel about Alexa? Wow, someone finally came in and protected me. And then let's say Alexa stages 2 people to come try to beat up Alex, and then Alexa fights them off. Now, Alexa becomes Alex's idol, hero, person. She trusts Alexa more than she trusts her own parents, more than she trusts any teacher on the campus, because no one else has looked out for her except Alexa. So when Alexa suggests that they ditch school and go down to the mall, she does. And when Alexa suggests that they go to a party and meet their friends, she does. She's going to do whatever Alexa says, because the only place she feels safe is next to Alexa. And then Alexa introduces her to the pimp, and Alex is gone. So it's just that someone met her need for security. Someone met her need for safety. If we as a community were to spot these situations and fill these gaps, if we were to provide the food, water, warmth, and rest to families who need it, they wouldn't be recruited. These kids wouldn't be recruited. We have to intervene. So let's say everyone in our community has the physiological and the safety needs. What's the next thing they need? Belongingness and love. Intimate relationships, friends. That layer is where most of the trafficking victims get recruited. It's that yellow layer is the hole in most kids' lives. Now, you may think that you're providing the love and belonging needs for your kid, but it's very popular for kids to be depressed these days. Have you noticed that? It's very popular for kids to be depressed and not have what they need, and some even suicidal for attention, right? Pretending to be suicidal for attention, because culture has taught us that that's how to get attention. You can get attention if you have a problem, if you have some weakness that people want to fill. You can get a lot of attention that way. So you're going to be exposing that you have a need for love and belonging. And what you're doing is painting a target on yourself that some recruiter is going to say, you're the most beautiful person I've ever met. I get you more than anyone gets you. I see you. I know that you don't have anyone to talk to. And I know your parents don't care about you, but I do. And I'm going to sit here and listen to you. Let's spend 3 hours. So we had a pimp recruit a girl because he spent 3 hours listening to her. She was 14, and no one had ever spent 3 hours listening to her. And he just let her talk, let her talk, let her talk. And the next day, she came to meet him again at the park after school. And it was like 3 times before he just took her in his car, and she was trafficked for 2 years. So when you have kids that need belongingness and love, you got to get there first. And that starts with the family. That sense of belongingness starts with the family. Even if a kid doesn't have a family, the family of God, the relationship with God fills that need for love and belonging. If we don't fill the need for love and belonging, and if they don't get introduced to Jesus, someone else will offer them a counterfeit lie to exploit them for that need. But let's say everyone has love and belonging. The next need is esteem need, feeling of prestige, feeling of accomplishment. So this is where we get professional recruiters who say, you're the perfect model that I've been looking for, and I'm going to take you to a fashion show, and I'm going to introduce you to these model photographers or whatever. So the professionals are going after the girls that want to be actors, the girls that want to be models, the girls that want to be professionals. You know what? Hey, I got a great job for you. I'm going to introduce you to the executive of this business who is looking for someone exactly like you to fill this job. So their need for esteem, their need to be famous, they want to be an actress, they're going to respond to these invitations, and they're going to wind up going and getting recruited because the place they went for their audition, the place they went for their interview is actually the trafficker's house where they're going to get abducted. And we have stories of that too. The top level is self-actualization, which is achieving one's full potential, including creative activities. I'm not there yet. If anyone's there, you know, more power to you. But the point is that traffickers and recruiters identify the need of the child. So they're going to look at this whole, they're going to get to know this whole kid. And you may have a kid who has everything going for them. There's a girl that was trafficked at 16. She had a wealthy family, good safety, 2 parents at home. They were both business owners. She was a cheerleader in the cheer team. She had a 4.2 GPA, and her boyfriend was a football player. Can it get any better than that for a 15-year-old girl? She was at the top of her game, popular, rich, everything going for her. She went to a party and got raped. What went out was safety. The green level got pulled out like Jenga. Her whole life collapsed. Within a week, she believed that she was worth nothing. I can't tell my parents because my parents told me all my life that if I have sex, then I'll be worth nothing and no one will ever want me, and it's the worst sin in the Bible. Whatever she believed was, I can never tell my parents what happened to me. I'm ruined. I'm permanently damaged. God doesn't love me anymore because I've done this thing. I've done this thing that was forbidden, that I shouldn't do. I'm cursed. I'm condemned. I might as well go to the strip clubs and turn into a stripper. And she did. And she was recruited by a pimp who took her to Vegas, and she was trafficked in the clubs in Vegas. We got her back twice. The second time, because her mom thought she could just come home and be normal again, and she wasn't. She was drug addicted. She ran back out and got trafficked again. But anyway, it's an example of how you can have a kid who's really doing well and everything looks great on the outside, and one bad experience shatters their whole entire life. And in 1 week, they go from being someone to being someone completely different, and it can happen. So the traffickers identify the need of the child, fulfill the need, and then they remove any other sources of need fulfillment. So what does that look like? So let's say that Alexa and Alex, right? They've developed this bond, and Alex really trusts Alexa more than she trusts her parents. But her parents are still in Alex's life. How is Alexa going to get Alex to run away? She's going to drive a wedge between Alex and her own parents. She has to remove any other source of need fulfillment. She has to get Alex not to trust her mom and dad anymore, and to keep secrets, and to start fighting with her mom and dad. So she's going to have something that Alex will do to rebel so that it creates a fight with her parents. And then she's going to say, your parents don't get you anyway. You're way too smart. They're way too strict. Those people are prudes. You don't need to listen to them anymore. And she drives a wedge between Alex and her own family. Now Alex starts not trusting her parents, not talking to her parents, sneaking out at night. So that isolation is what makes the trafficker have all the opportunity they need to make that kid disappear. And then they exploit the child's dependence for need fulfillment by forcing them into prostitution. So during the early part of grooming, the trafficker, the recruiter, is giving that kid everything they want, everything they ever wanted. Their dreams are going to come true. Everything they need is this person loves them, takes care of them, gives them everything they need. They're better than their family ever was to them. They treat them like gold. They feel like they have found their person in the world to make all their dreams come true, until they say no to something they're asked to do. And then the threats come. And then the threats come. So it turns on a dime. That's what all the victims say. I thought he was my boyfriend. I thought he loved me. He was showering me with gifts. He spent $3,000 on me in one day, buying me everything I pointed at he would buy for me. I thought I had found the man of my dreams who was going to take care of me. And then he sold me. And when I said no, he pulled a gun to my head. Because it switches like that. So the point being, finding and recognizing vulnerabilities in all of our youth that we encounter every day is the key to saving them from exploitation. Can I have the next slide, please? So these are the tactics of the predators. We're going to do 2 slides on this. Their goal, and whether it be an online predator who's targeting them through social media, or whether it be somebody hanging around the school, or somebody, I have a girl who I got her out of her job because she said she worked at a pet store and these 3 guys came in every single day just to talk to her. They didn't buy anything. They were just coming to talk to her and tell her how pretty she was. And I was like, are they following you out to your car at night? Well, I don't see them following me. Girl, you got to get out of that store because they're there every single day talking to her, telling her she's pretty. There's no doubt that they know what her shift is. There's no doubt they know when she gets off work. And it's a matter of time before they get their hands on her. So she changed jobs and transferred to another one. But their goal is in-person sexual relations. That's the goal. They do it by developing trust and secrecy. So they get the kid to trust them, but then they also say, don't tell anyone. This happens right off the bat. At the first introduction, we have a story I'll tell on Sunday of a girl that got exploited online, completely online by a predator. But he started right away. You can trust me. You can tell me anything. I'm not going to tell anybody. I'm just a person on your phone. You can tell me all of your problems, everything you need, and I'll be here for you. I'm here for you at 2 a.m. I'm here for you any time of the day or night. Trust, but don't tell anyone about me because they're going to take your phone. So trust and secrecy. Affirm the child's choices, autonomy. So they make them feel older and more mature than they are. This is a way of flattering them. They affirm their likes and dislikes. They constantly flatter the child. You're way smarter than other people think you. You're way prettier than other people say you are. You're the best thing that ever. And so what the kid is addicted to this attention now. Kids need attention. They need feedback. So they're affirming all of this, but then autonomy is in bold because they're saying, you know what's good for you. You don't need to follow anyone else's rules. You're way smart. You can do what you want. And what you want is to hang out with me. Then, number 4, they give gifts, especially things the parents won't give. It's one way you can spot a kid that's being recruited because they're walking around with stuff you know their parents didn't buy them. Their parents would not be that stupid to buy this kid this extravagant thing, right? The Gucci thing. You know their family would not think that that was a wise purchase and wouldn't do it. So what are they walking around with Gucci for? Because someone is recruiting them with it. They develop a relationship that is romantic, exciting, controlling, and dependent. So kids naturally want a controlling an authority. They just do. They need an authority. They feel vulnerable in life. They need somebody looking out for them, and they want someone that is controlling. It feels comfortable. It feels safe to them. And they also want somebody that lets them be dependent because it makes them feel more secure. So when you see all of these factors happening in a conversation, romantic, exciting, controlling, and dependent, that's somebody that's really getting control of that kid. Can I have the next slide, please? So then they exploit the sexual curiosities of the kid. So this is a way of making the kid think that there's nothing wrong with this. This is normal. It's normal for kids to think about this stuff. Now, you can't talk to your parents about this thing, but you can talk to me about it. And you know what? You probably don't know as much as your friends do about this, so let me educate you a bit. And they start to get the kids sexually curious about things, and they get that dialogue going, and now you're down the river with this. Then they drive a wedge between the kid and their parents, create isolation. So when parents call and they go, look, I think my kid's being recruited, I think my kid's running away, I think there's something bad going on, my first question to them is, when did she start sassing at you? When did her attitude toward you go bad? What was the day that happened? Because there is a day that happened, and it's the day that the recruiter got a wedge between her and her family so he could isolate her. And they go, oh, well, she was 12, and this thing, she went to a party, and she came back sassing at us. And I go, who she met at that party is who your problem is. Because the day her attitude changed, the day she drove a wedge between, the day she stopped talking to you, the day she started hiding in her room and locking the door and not letting you see what she was doing, was the day she met this recruiter who was taking charge of her life. They ease inhibitions by gradually introducing sex. They promise to make the kids' dreams come true. They always promise an exciting, affluent life with intense bondedness. What they need is, you are mine, you are mine, I am your person, you belong to me. They always want that, because if the kid believes that they belong to this person, they won't leave. They don't feel like they have anything else. This person is their everything. I'm gonna show you a video later of a woman who explains this perfectly. Number 10, they make threats, coerce, control. They may use pornography of the victim to threaten them. We get a lot of this where they get a girl to send them provocative photos, and then when she says, no, I won't meet you and go to that party, I'm not that kind of girl, they say, we're gonna send these photos to your mom, or we're gonna post these photos on Facebook and tag your mom. And she's going to know that this is you doing this with such and such or in such and such. And the kid will not want that information exposed. Kids won't. They'll go to the end of the world to keep their parents from knowing what they've been up to if they're ashamed. Because what they're afraid of is rejection. So if you're a parent, do not tell your kid that you will reject them for anything. You can't do that. If they believe you will reject them, they're going to run away the second something goes wrong in their life. When in fact, you should be the one they come to with their problem. If they believe you will reject them and curse them and condemn them for what they did, they will be out the door and you'll lose them. What you need to do is provide a safety for your kids where they know you are the one person that they can come to when they're in trouble. When you have that, you have a chance of keeping your kid. Can I have the next slide, please? Okay, so why don't they just run away? Do we have that video of Taisha that we can play? Okay, this is a survivor she's a survivor now. She's doing great. She came to a drop-in center that I was working undercover at in Los Angeles. I figured out pretty quickly that she was being trafficked. I teach you in the course how to get someone to open up. Within about 5 minutes, she started crying and opening up. I took her just for a drive around the block in my car so we could talk. And she told me she was being trafficked and everything that was happening to her. And we were able to get her out of trafficking. She was willing to go on camera and do a documentary of her story. And so this video is her telling in her own words how she got trafficked and why she didn't run away.
It's 6 of us all together. I have 6 brothers and sisters. I'm the oldest of 6. This is me and my uncle Ismail. And this is me and my mom and dad. This picture is a reminder of 2 young people who didn't know what they was doing and didn't know where life was gonna take them and made a lot of mistakes, but they didn't mean to. It reminds me I was made in love. They just didn't know what they were doing. You know, when I look at the pictures that's right here and thinking about what I wanted to be when I grow up, and I wanted to be an architect. That's what I wanted to be when I grew up, when I was a little kid. I wanted to build a big house to put my whole family in so we could have a TV family. Kind of like the ones you see on the Cosby Show, and that's why I wanted to be an architect. So we could have a family where everybody gets along. I would have never thought life would have sent me on the trail that it sent me on to be sitting here talking to you right now. And I had a lot of other aspirations in life. It was right after my 14th birthday where I met my first trafficker. No one says when they're kids, I want to grow up and go all across the country and sell my body and give all my money to this guy who is going to beat me and make me feel as if I'm less than human. No girl says that when she's a kid. That's no one's dream. So you start talking to God and you're like, God, did you put me on this earth for this? Did you put me on this earth to be abused repetitively? Because it didn't just start there. It started way before. And you just sitting there thinking, like, what kind of God are you to put me here for this? You know? A lot of things that had to do with my upbringing and the sexual abuse, the combination, kind of prepped me for a trafficker, associating with abuse with love. This person loves me if they hit me because they're disciplining me. I didn't value my body. I didn't value me. Sex trafficking isn't just a girl being kidnapped out of her home or a girl being snatched away. Sex trafficking is as easy as Bobby from the barber shop pulling up on your daughter. Oh, your mom made you mad. Your dad made you mad. Oh, don't worry about nothing. Bobby's gonna take care of you. Let's go shopping. Let me help you pick out some clothes. Let me do your makeup. You never had that done. Let me give you everything that you've never had done. And I'm gonna kiss on you a little bit, tell you how much I love you. And this is what you gotta do for me. And we gonna go all across the world and do it. And I'm gonna make all your dreams come true the way your family didn't do it. I was conditioned to think that this was normal. First name whore, middle name whore, last name whore, and that's what I embodied. They were pimps. They made money off of women. They surrounded themselves by women. They talked to women. Their get up from the time they woke up to the time they went to sleep was, how can I get more women? How can I make more money off of women? He told me, you know, nobody wants you. Nobody cares about you. Nobody loves you. Look what I do for you. I take care of you. I make sure you eat. I check on you. I bail you out of jail. Sometimes, depending on how bad I hurt you, I take you to the doctor when you need to go. I am your everything. And you believe that this person is your everything. And you feel obligated to this person. You feel like you can't leave them. You feel like you can't go nowhere else. There's nowhere else to turn. It's mental handcuffs that this person has on you. Society doesn't care about you. Nobody gives a fuck about you. You're just a whore. That's all you're good for. And your brain thinks that. You think that even if I try to leave, where am I gonna go? What am I gonna do? Who's gonna hire me with a record a mile long? What man is ever gonna wanna be with a woman that's been with a million other men and they could still see the sins that's all over her body? Who is gonna want me in the end? You feel that. You feel like this is the only person that wants you. So it is hard to leave. It is really hard to leave. Sometimes if you didn't make your quota for the day, you'll be out all day and all night trying to get it until you did get it. Sometimes there'd be consequences. It was like a constant chase of money. Like you gotta chase it from place to place. It was like a fingernail foul. He starts stabbing me. You play different roles for the buyer to where they think in their head, she likes it. She's getting money for it. I'm gonna give her money for it. We're all satisfied. The buyers have the least consequences. I've had a buyer get mad and say he want his money back and take my purse, and I call the police and the police show up and say, well, you gotta give him his money back. I have over 100 cases. am what they consider a career criminal. There's still girls out there that's roaming around looking for a family, trying to gain acceptance, and this is where they see acceptance. This is where they seek refuge, because the rest of society has forgotten about them. So you have to keep working with these people, because it takes a lot for us to build up trust. So many people we've trusted in have broken it and broken us that we don't know who to trust. Instead of driving down the street and saying, oh, that's a dirty prostitute, say to yourself, I wonder what happened to lead her there. All the innocence that was taken away from me from the time I was 14 all the way up until I was 30 years old. Just think about those years and what I could have done with those years if one person would have reached out to me and said, you know what, it's okay, you don't have to do this. I'm gonna help you be a kid. It's important to save those girls because they shouldn't have to go through what I went through. Nobody should have to endure that type of lifestyle.
All right. There's a lot that's gone on in Taisha's life. Since this is public, I'm not going to tell you more of her story because it is her story. But she is doing well now, and she's a poet. You can see how eloquent she is. She was able to go to job training, get a professional job training so she can get a good job. But she's finding right now that her gift is poetry and writing her story and her thoughts and her experiences in poetry. And that's her way of communicating her story to people and what she's learned about life. She is brilliant at this. I mean, some of the things that she's able to express in her poetry are just phenomenal. So she does know God. She loves God. And so she has mended that hole in her heart that she had before, and knows that he is with her and loves her. So she's doing well. I think there's one slide that just shows this flyer. So we have these, if you don't already have one, we have these at the desk over there where the books are. This is a list of indicators of a sex trafficking victim. So these are ways to identify kids or youth or women or boys that are being exploited. What are the behaviors that you're going to be able to see that will give you a sign that something is happening in their life? This flyer we send out, I've put this around school campuses, parents, communities, colleges, nursing, hotels. And this has brought us a lot of cases. It doesn't mean that everything on this list means the kid is being trafficked. Okay, but if they have 5 or 6 or 7 of these characteristics, you're probably looking at someone that's being trafficked or being groomed. So it's an important thing to have. We also have on the front side our website where we talk about the courses is recoveryofchildren.com. You can find out about the courses from there. And Baz, you want to talk some more?
Yeah, thanks. So just a note on the course. It's graphic. It's real. All the cases come from real cases. Sometimes we have to say this because in a faith-based community, we have standards, we have moral standards, we have things we look at, we don't look at, whatever it may be. But if you're going to go out there and look at all the evil, then you have to know what it looks like. And you don't get a free hall pass because it's ugly. Because you know why? Because God doesn't get a free hall pass. God sees it all. And you need to see what he's dealing with every single day, what God's heart is like as well. So, but we always have to warn people about the course because you don't want to get out there and get surprised and go, oh my gosh, look at what they're wearing, or look at what they're not wearing, or my gosh, look at the language that they use, and how do I deal with this and deal with that? It's we tell people all the time, we don't teach our operators to be safe. We teach them to be brave. There's nothing safe about the trafficking world at all. It's not make-believe and everything. How many people saw the movie Sound of Freedom? A lot of people. No matter what the nuts and bolts of the criticism for or against the movie is, don't lose sight of this. The message is child sex trafficking is happening. And our message to you is, while Tim and OUR work a lot overseas, that's happening here in America and has been happening in America. And the problem we've dealt with in America, excuse me, is that when we're trying to explain child sex trafficking to the multitudes, is they were like, oh, that happens over there. It never happens over here. Oh, I've been to South America. I've been to Thailand. It always happens over there, but it doesn't happen here. It does, and it has been. It's just the business model here is far more sophisticated. With the 400,000 plus children missing that we mentioned, do you see 400,000 children walking on the streets of America? No. So where are they? How are they being sold? How are they being used in child pornography? How are they being logistically, how are they being moved all across America? It's a good question. It's a really good question. Together, we can figure it all out and we can save those children. And then finally, I want to leave you with this, which is always a hard point, but I say it to both men and women here in the audience. This business model makes a lot of money. It makes it on a lot of fronts. If you are involved in pornography of any kind, whether you're a male or female in here, you are part of the problem. All of that money goes right into the sex trade. So if you are involved in it, stop it. Just stop it. That's it. You just have to stop it. Just don't do it. Because every dollar that you spend on pornography is some kid's torture. That's what it is. It's some kid's torture. Tina mentioned this before. What is child sex trafficking? It's paid child rape. That's what it is. There's no other way around it. The word sex trafficking has become so commonplace, or just trafficking, that most people don't even blink an eye at it when we talk about it anymore. So remember, that's what it is. It's paid child rape. So, anything else? Anybody have any questions? Okay, it's pretty late.
Oh, here's your slide.
Oh, there's a thing. As I said earlier, saving one child won't change the world. We always live by this. But just saving that one child, their entire world might change. And you don't know who that kid's going to grow up to be. So, it's very overwhelming. You're emotionally driven by a lot of things we've spoken about. If you saw the movie, you're emotionally driven. And generally in America, there's one thing cool about Americans. We're consistent with our habits. We get emotionally charged, and 2 weeks later, we forget about it. Isn't that the truth? We really do. So let me encourage you not to make this an emotional issue. Let me encourage you to stay in prayer, stay in the scriptures, and make this very much a logical issue. This is what's happening, and if we don't clean it up, it's going to come knock on my front door, and it will. And so again, we encourage you to get involved. And don't think that, and I was having this talk with Mike earlier, we run into a lot of NGOs that go, we're going to rid the world of child sex trafficking. We've been in the trenches a long time. Child sex trafficking is not going to go away until God comes back. It's not happening, as it was in the days of Noah. But you can take a big bite of it on your watch. You can take responsibility on your watch. And you can say, as long as I'm here, I'm going to make sure it doesn't happen. You just do the very best you can. Just go out. Let me encourage everybody to do this. Just go out and save one kid. That's it. Just one kid. Not 5, not 15. Don't try to conquer the world. Just go out and save one kid in your lifetime and see what happens. If you do, you will have saved one more kid that somebody else would not have saved. And I think God will greatly reward you for that. But at the same time, your life might change and you might find yourself in the trenches with us, saving thousands of kids. Right? Okay. We thank you for your time. God bless you. And you guys be safe going home, okay? Thank you.
And Baz and Tina, thank you so much. That was excellent. Thank you, thank you, thank you. Well, tomorrow, 10 o'clock, a prayer meeting. We're just going to ask the Lord to break in our city and to rescue children and for the Lord to put a stop to things. So pray for us, and then you'll be dismissed. And Father, and then tomorrow afternoon at 1 o'clock, we'll be here, seminar, a Q&A, and so come ready for that. Father, we thank you, Lord, for who you are. You are the God who is, you're mighty to save. You're the divine abolitionist. It's who you are. You open up prison doors. Father, I ask you, Lord, that you would increase, Father, your presence upon our hearts. Lord, even as you gave Rob a dream, Lord, a week or so ago. Lord, I just pray, Lord, for an increase in manifestations of dreams. Lord, that you would continue to share your heart with us by your presence, through your word, and prayer. In Jesus' name, amen. Amen. So the worship team come up. The prayer room is going to continue here until 10 o'clock. So the worship team is going to go ahead and come up. If you could please take your conversations to the foyer, that'd be great. Let's not have any conversations in here, as this is the prayer room here until 10 o'clock.